Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1087A, and today's date is September 28th, 2016, and the title of the episode is, A Major Warning Was Just Issued. We are approaching a market crash. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with Lior Gantz. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It'll bring you to the video. Or you can come over to the x22report.com site. You can scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You'll see the video there, and you can play it. Or you can go to newssentinel.com. Same thing. Scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can see the video there and play it right on the site. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we are seeing more and more signs that this economy is deteriorating very, very quickly. We talk about real estate, we talked about retail, we talked about unemployment, corporate defaults, the auto bubble, the student loan bubble, derivative bubble. And what we're seeing right now is foreign investors, they're drying up. They're not putting their funds into real estate. It's drying up in Vancouver, Australia. It's drying up in the United States. And we can see the people are sitting on the sidelines. They got wiped out in 2008. They never recovered. Many people have gotten laid off since then during this incredible recovery, which we know is non-existent. And we're starting to see billionaires, millionaires and billionaires. Well, they're having problems for themselves. Are they running out of money? No, but we can see different signs of what is happening. Greenwich, which I think everyone knows is a very, very wealthy area, is a prosperous community in America. And there's 1 out of every 10 hedge funds in the country that is managed there. And people go and they purchase their exotic cars, their jewelry, they get their jewelry, and they buy these gigantic mansions. But what we're seeing in this area is things are declining there, which is odd. But this is exactly what we're seeing. There's a dealer in Greenwich which says they have this S-Class coupe Mercedes-Benz that's about $250,000. And they're saying for 6 months, it's just sitting there. There's no takers, nobody even coming in to get it. Diamonds that are usually bought, well, they're just sitting there. People aren't coming in. When we look at the mega mansions in Greenwich, well, the prices are collapsing. Contracts for homes between $5 million and $5.99 million, well, they're down 80%. I mean, many are trying to sell their real estate holdings. As of September 14th, there were 46 homes at $10 million or more on the market. Some that have been on the market since 2014. They can't move them. And we've seen this in other places like the Hamptons, New York, San Francisco, and it's spreading. It kind of reminds you of something. It reminds you of 2008, prior to this. And we can see the situation is actually deteriorating very, very quickly, because this will then trickle down to everyone else. And we can see that other individuals outside of the wealthy areas, they're already having the problems. They've already seen the problems. They've already seen their relatives, their friends get laid off, where they can't find another job. And this is continuing. It has not stopped. So everything they've told us going back to 2008, going back to 2012, 2013, 2015, where Europe and the United States saying that everything's improving. If everything is improving, why are we seeing everything contracting? It makes no sense. For instance, in the last 60 years, the U.S. economy has never suffered such a long contraction in core durable goods. We have now declined for 20 months. When we've seen this before, we are officially in a recession. Well, we are now in a recession. Now, the United States government, central bankers, they're not going to admit to this. They don't admit to it until much, much later. They're just going to keep the illusion alive that we're in a recovery. We're seeing declines in all different sectors. 5.8% drop in computer new orders. 0.5% drop in machinery. 0.5% in fabricated products. 2% drop in communication equipment. 2.5% in electrical equipment. But, which is amazing, we see a 23.6% surge in defense capital good new orders. Well, it's really not surprising. We know the government is continually purchasing. We know they're hiring. And the government makes up a large portion of the economy. And the government is in debt. $20 trillion in debt. And then if you count everything else, it's around $200 trillion. We're getting word from the HSBC's Chief of Technical Analysis. He just sent out a major warning. What is that warning? He says, unless the markets can take out their September highs, we could very well see a repeat of the 1987 crash. Right now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average formed a head and shoulders top when it violated its neckline. We saw this back in 1987. It had then failed to attempt to reclaim the neckline, which resulted in the market rolling over into the famous crash in 1987. We're seeing the same thing happen right now. We're seeing the same exact pattern. And we can see Murray Gunn, the chief of technical analysis, is saying that we're seeing the exact pattern today. And if it continues on, we will be in a crash scenario. And from looking at the 1987 crash, we're not that far off. It could happen at any moment. And we can see there's a lot of black swans that might be the catalyst that brings the economy down. Deutsche Bank, for one. We know Germany is not making any plans to rescue the bank. Well, of course, that's what they're saying. This is what governments, central banks usually do. They tell you that we're not going to save the bank, we're not going to do anything for the bank, and then all of a sudden, they have this incredible plan to save the bank. Maybe this plan is the bail-ins. This is why Germany has been telling their people to prepare. Because they realize once this goes, this is going to be a complete disaster. And this is why everyone should get prepared. This is why everyone should get ready. You shouldn't sit there and wait and say, I've been hearing about this for a long time, and yeah, I see things deteriorating. I see everything being manipulated. We know the stock market's not real, but you know what? I'm not going to do anything. But when that time comes, you're going to wish you had. So whatever you need to get, I would start ramping up on those purchases. I would buy extra food, extra water, batteries, maybe lanterns, a weapon, definitely. Gold and silver as an insurance policy, cash on hand. Because as we know, when the system comes down, we're not just going to say, okay, get rid of your cash, throw it out the window, let me go grab the gold and silver. No, what happens is people still use cash. You don't use your gold and silver. You keep that someplace safe. Because what's going to happen during the crash, people are going to be running around. People are going to say, okay, I can't get my supplies. People are going to be rushing into supermarkets. Look what happens during Christmas when they have Black Friday sales. And people run into Walmart just to get a laptop or maybe a DVD player or something ridiculous. They push people out of their way. They step on them. What do you think is going to happen when people have to go get food for their family, water for their family, stock up on supplies for their family? They're going to push and shove and beat people to get what they need. We see it in Venezuela. So when this happens, you're going to need cash because the stores are going to accept it. They will accept cash in the beginning. And of course, what we'll see as the system continually breaks down, the petrodollar implodes on itself, we're going to see inflation, of course. Because all those countries, they no longer need to hold the reserve currency. So those dollars will float back. Float back to the United States. We'll have a lot more currency floating around here, which will then make the inflation that the central bank wants so badly. But it will turn into hyperinflation. Things will go up rapidly. You use your paper money for this period of time, because as the value declines and declines and declines, you want to get rid of it. Try to get whatever you can while you can get it. And then eventually it'll be worth absolutely nothing. And then all you have left is what you've stored up: food, water, toiletries, your weapon, and your precious metals. Hopefully you have medicines just in case someone's sick. These are the things that you need to do, and it looks like we're getting closer and closer to that point. Bridgewater, this company, is calculating that the central banks, well, they're running out of road. And we know they are running out of road because they really haven't changed their policies. They've been keeping them steady. To get more power to do extraordinary things, the central bank will need Congress to pass legislation. And for Congress to pass legislation to give more power to the central bank, what needs to happen? Because the central bank can't just go up to Congress and say, listen, we need more legislation here. We need to buy equities. We need to do other things. So can you just pass this along and vote on it? They're going to say absolutely not. What would be the purpose of this? The economy is recovering. So the central bank will need an event. And we said that this economy will come down in different phases. Phase one is to allow the central bank to receive more power. We saw it in 2008. They were allowed to do quantitative easing. They were allowed to buy up the toxic real estate. We saw all this happen before. This is nothing new. And we're going to see it again. So Ray Dalio's Bridgewater asked precisely the question, how much longer can this charade continue with the central bank? And they looked at the ECB, they looked at the Bank of Japan, they looked at the Fed, and they're saying if they continue on with their existing programs and they do nothing else, minimum 8 months more, maximum 24 months. So anything between this period. And we can see right now that doesn't give them much time to get everything going, because the other thing they need to worry about is what's happening on the other side of the world. With Deutsche Bank, they need to worry about what's happening in the Middle East, the threat to the petrodollar. It's not just one thing. This entire economic crash is made up of many different parts. And if one part slips away and breaks and causes a chain reaction, well, the whole system comes down. So they realize they have a certain period of time, and time is running out, because they're very nervous about something coming out of left field, right field. It doesn't matter. They don't want that to happen. They want to create the narrative. They want to bring it down, controlled by them, to allow the central bank to take on more control, to allow them to do more in the economy. I mean, will it work once they do this? No, absolutely not. The underlying factors of the economy will continue to fail. They'll keep the illusion alive, but they know this will only keep people happy for a certain period of time, because more and more people will be losing their job and things will be going south for many people. And this is where phase two comes in. And we can see right now we're approaching phase one of this collapse. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.